1950s dawned a new era for Americans. It was after World War II, and veterans were coming back home to enjoy a new lifestyle not involved in war. The American economy had made a remarkable recovery since the Great Depression of 1929. Although tensions of the Cold War were prevalent, Americans were relatively secure and content at the time. U.S. citizens were socially conservative and materialistic. They held on to their Republican values and simultaneously enjoyed a wide variety of products available to them on the market, as well as 50s culture. Television became part of the daily life of Americans. It was a form of entertainment, advertisement, and a great source of media. It was dominating the communication industry. By the end of the decade, Americans spent $15.6 billion to repair and purchase television sets. The average American in the 1950s watched an average of 6 hours of television a day. Edward R. Murrow said, "If television is to be used for the real entertainment of all the people of all time, we have come perilously close to discovering the real opiate of the people." Children's shows debuted on television include the Howdy Doody Show and the Mickey Mouse Club. They were prominent shows that all children in the United States enjoyed watching. Children sang and danced on these shows and enjoyed a swell time. Children were not the only ones to watch television. The most watched show of the 50s, I Love Lucy, starring Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, captured the attention of many Americans. Americans anticipated new episodes of this comedy so much that the number of viewers of I Love Lucy exceeded the number of viewers for Eisenhower's inauguration. Both these events occurred in the same month. Another situation comedy, Leave It to Beaver, debuted the same day the Russians launched Sputnik. Leave It to Beaver was the first show of its kind. The show brought up issues of troubled teens such as alcoholism and divorce. The rise of television production led to a decrease in theater attendance. It was much more convenient for a family to watch television at home and enjoy a TV dinner than to drive to the theater. Although Americans attended fewer movies, interest in Hollywood among Americans did not die out. The film industry's top movies included Singing in the Rain, 12 Angry Men, and The Bridge on the River Kwai, topped the movie lists in the 50s. Children of the 1950s enjoyed their lives more than any other children in American history. Children enjoyed a variety of new toys on the market. Hula hoops were a 50s favorite. When Richard Nur and Arthur Mellon released the new plastic hoop, it was an instant success. 20 million hoops sold in the first 6 months of its production. Within 2 years, over 100 million hula hoops were sold. Hula hoop competitions and exhibitions took place throughout the U.S. One famous competition took place at New Jersey's Brookside Swim Club. Their winner was a 10-year-old boy with a record of 3,000 spins. Another toy, Mr. Potato Head, also became a 50s favorite. Mr. Potato Head was the first toy to be advertised on television. His changeable eyes, ears, and mouth amazed children by creating different combinations for his face. The legendary toy of the 1950s was the Barbie doll. Barbie was the fashionable, iconic doll that embodied young girls' dreams in the 50s. Young girls enjoyed giving Barbie a new role as they changed her outfits. Other famous toys include Silly Putty, dolls, metal toy cars, Tinker toys, pickup sticks, pogo sticks, skateboards, jump ropes, bicycles, and unicycles. Music was the most important part of the American lifestyle in the 1950s. Adults' music consisted of romantic, bland, and sophisticated music. These sleek jazz musicians such as Peggy Lee, Julia London, Nat King Cole, The Weavers and Gordon Jenkins, Teresa Brewer, and Tony Bennett appealed only to the adults in society. Record sales plummeted due to these boring tunes until 1958. When rock and roll emerged, teenagers flooded record-selling stores, purchasing over 70% of all records. The new thundering mixture of country with African-American rhythm and blues appealed to the younger Americans. The new genre was irresistible to teenage girls who dominated the music market and turned rock and roll idols into overnight millionaires. Little Richard helped define rock and roll with his wacky dances, rebellious music, and over-the-top appearance made him loved by many teenagers of different races. But the most influential figure in rock and roll was Elvis Presley. This truck driver from Memphis turned rock and roll into the national teenage religion. His album sold more than 1 million copies. His handsome looks, unique sound, and electric performances made teenagers swoon and parents shudder. His famous songs, Don't Be Cruel and Blue Suede Shoes, topped the record lists. Elvis's critics did not like his outrageous performances, and sometimes required him to be filmed only from the waist up. They labeled his dance moves as wild and inappropriate.
Well, you can do anything but take me over my blue suede shoes.
After World War II, women left their war jobs and took their work clothes with them. Women during the 1950s dressed in a new look, which relaxed the rules for women's dress. It was more important to look good than to feel comfortable for women. Women wanted to feel elegant and beautiful. These new fashions accomplished just that. Christian Dior did away with the wartime clothing and created a new look. His Carole line collection featured jackets pinched at the waist and skirts that ran to the middle of the calf that were stuffed with nylon petticoats. Chanel also introduced a suit with a collarless jacket with a skirt right below the knee. This look challenged Dior. Women completed these elegant new looks with gloves, hats, purses, and shoes. Shoes for women had transformed dramatically. During the 1950s, Roger Vivier introduced the new stiletto heel. It was a taller heel that was smaller on the bottom than on top. Women purchased these shoes to keep up with the fashion demands. For young women, the fashion rage was the poodle skirt. Every girl wanted one and had to have one. The poodle skirt was worn with a bright-colored cashmere sweater that contrasted the skirt's color. A scarf was added to complete the outfit. The adorable poodle on the bottom would sometimes be replaced with a flower, flamingo, or even a red-hot car. These fashions guaranteed glamour and freedom to the women who dressed in the new feminine fashions. The new look became the iconic symbol of beauty as well as a herald for a hopeful future. Men's fashion did not change much, but it did signal the conformity of the 1950s. Men wore flannel suits in few colors such as gray, black, and dark brown. With their conformist clothing, they always wore hats. Some young men wore similar fashions. They adopted the British-influenced teddy boy style. Teddy boys wore high-waisted, narrow trousers, long jackets, slim ties, and pointed shoes called winkle pickers. Other young men wore nonconformist clothing. Denim jeans, a white t-shirt, and a leather jacket became the symbol of rebellion. The most famous hairstyle for these young men was the ducktail hairstyle with long sideburns. Enormous amounts of hair grease was needed to accomplish this new look. A new wave of American-bred bohemians emerged, calling themselves the Beat Generation. The Beatniks originated in the West Coast in San Francisco. Beats felt that they had been blessed with mystical powers. But many of the bohemians fought in the Korean War and were disillusioned with the old American dream of prosperity and conformity. For them, beat just meant beaten down. Men wore beards, short hair, simple clothing such as khaki pants, a sweater, sandals, and ensured not a hint of flamboyance in the way they dressed. Women wore black leotards and no lipstick, but wore so much eyeshadow that people joked about their raccoon eyes. They spoke with words they picked up from the Negro jazz artists. They experimented with marijuana and called it pot. Their houses were scarcely furnished with only a mattress, guitar, and a few books and records. The books they owned were the works of Zen Buddhists. But the Beatniks were not appreciated by the media. The stereotype was that they lived lazy, unproductive lives and rebelled against social norms. But in defense of his lifestyle, Jack Kerouac, the leading oracle of the movement, insisted, "We love everything. Bill Graham, the Big Ten, rock and roll, Zen, apple pie, Eisenhower. We dig it all. We're in the vanguard of the new religion." Another primary figure of the Beat movement, Allen Ginsberg, came from Paterson, New Jersey and left to Columbia University where he met Kerouac. He became a book reviewer and market research consultant. A year of psychotherapy, however, liberated him from his middle-class aspirations, whereupon he dashed off Howl, the verses that made him one of America's best-known poets.